And so the purpose of today's lesson, and somebody brought up something pretty good in chat here a little earlier, which was moonlight, right? He said, like, understanding the difference between what is a puzzle piece and what puzzle pieces fit together is important. And so like what happens with my material, and we all have cognitive biases in life. An example I give in mentorship is that you'll turn right more than you will left in life just because it's a cognitive bias. If you buy a brand new vehicle and take it to the dealership for its first oil change, you'll notice one of your right tires is always going to have the lowest tread on it. We have biases in life. The point of saying that is that our mind, it creates biases in everything we do, the way we learn information, the way we wake up every day. It's just cognitively, it's something we do at a subconscious level. And our subconscious, unfortunately, controls our neurons and our electrons. You know, our electrons transfer from mitochondria to electron into, or sorry, from electron to mitochondria down the ETC and the ATP channels, and then it goes into your thoughts that form from electrons, and they create biases. So we all have biases, and you know, when you say there's pieces of technical analysis, I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. I have now taught hundreds of thousands of students through all my different social medias and this and that. It's been lots, and I have seen thousands, if not tens of thousands of people come to me with various amounts of questions, with various amounts of problems that I help them solve, scenarios, whether it be I'm having a mental battle because I'm at a loss for motivation, or it could be I struggle because my brain is too tired by the end of the day, all the way to technical analysis where people say, I don't understand this topic. So the range is so huge as to where we all fail in this. So if I was to take a sample of 1,000 traders in this community, you couldn't really put them into a grouping of more than maybe, I think you would see one massive grouping where out of that 1,000 day traders, if you were to ask them, why haven't you become a professional yet? I think a lot of them would say, I need more material. So these are the pieces of fabric that I give to people. So imagine every single lesson I create is another piece of fabric. The problem with that is that people fail to stitch the fabric together. So I often call this logic flow, right? And logic flow is the ability to understand the charts. And so if you were to take all my lessons, there's 149 lessons in the level 1 through 6. So let's just say 100 of those are different theories, because some are recap. And that's not even to touch on the other material that I do, the guides that I do, the mental analysis stuff. That's 149. So let's average that down to just let's just say 100 lessons. They're each appropriate and applicable based on the logic flow of the chart. Sometimes an origin level is active and it's the thing that you should be using. Sometimes it's a ladder point. Sometimes it's a combo level. Sometimes a reverse level. Sometimes it's a range trend. Sometimes it's a cycle trend. Sometimes it's an internal trend. Sometimes it's an exterior trend. Sometimes it's an inverse hold level. Sometimes it's a regular hold level. Sometimes it's a time frame up. Sometimes it's +1, -1. Sometimes it's a combination of two of these things. They all have a relevance, but the ability to understand where to use them is important. And this is where I think people typically will bunch in what logic flow means to them. So when they say logic flow, it's almost like understanding the flow of logic and how we come to a conclusion, which is true. This is true. However, getting to that point where you have logic flow, if I was to say out of every student I've ever seen, I can count on fingers and toes. I need toes too, because I would say there's about 20 people I've seen out of the thousands I've worked with, maybe 20 of them, 10 in mentorship and maybe 10 randomly and outside of mentorship, between 5 and 10 in each category. So I say a maximum of 20 who have actually been able to take the day trading. And I'm just guesstimating because not everybody reaches out to me. Those who are successful simply never reach back out to me because they're living their life and they've learned my material, they've become successful and they've moved on and they're focusing on their career, and that's great. So, you know, typically you're going to see more of the negative feedback than you are the positive, because simply for the fact that if someone is learning and thriving, they're focused on that. And that's exactly what I want from them. I don't want that haptic feedback. I don't want that. I don't need it. I know they're thriving, succeeding out there. Once a year, they'll message me and show me their P&L charts and be like, look, I just made 500 grand this year because of your material. That's awesome. Great. Those people won't reach out to me. So the people who do have problems, those ones that reach out to me, that's the thing. I've seen maybe 20 of them be able to, out of that, which I would refer to not as a problematic group, but a group with problems. I would see it's not problematic because it's actually a statistic. It's actually the normalized ratio. The more will fail than will succeed, right? I've seen maybe 20 of them be able to conquer the barrier or reach that path of, I am an aspiring day trader, and I am now a pro day trader by getting more information, by getting more technical analysis. The truth is I have so much technical analysis out there. I've seen people who have only gone through future of trading and now make 7 figures a year. And there's proof to that because they show it to me, they share it with me, and they're like, hey, I went through future of trading. I never had the chance to take your other courses because I started succeeding, and this is where I'm at. Awesome, great. And so people often think they need more material, but they don't. They actually need to learn how to learn, which sounds odd. You need to learn how to learn. It's a bit of a tongue twister, but this is where most people get stuck. And so I want to talk about the 4 pillars and the way we learn to help make people understand where that process gets broken. Because I think for I would say out of that group of people who are trying to learn how to day trade better, I would say they more often than not, and I'm using that very loosely, I would actually like to say probably 95% plus of these people have a break in somewhere where they don't know how to learn. So at the highest level, looking down, so no, I'm not talking about in a silo, I'm not talking about in instances or singular instances. At the highest level, if you were to ask me, what is the best way I can train a day trader, is the very first step to the path of success, which at the highest level is the most important tier. So the piece of knowledge and information that I can pass on that says, if I could teach you guys and gals this one thing, your rate of success will increase exponentially. So this is at the highest level, not only in a blanket statement that will affect the most people, but also at the highest level to get the largest amounts of progression for almost every single person here. It's how we learn, and we need to learn how to learn better. And we do that by being able to self-identify where we fail at learning. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today, and that's what I'm going to be teaching. That process of diagnosing yourself to understand, where am I failing? Because if everybody in here can go and give their own prognosis on their own internal path or the path that they're day trading and say, this is where I'm struggling with, why am I struggling here, and how do I breach into the next phase? This is equipping everybody with the ability to be uncapped. You will no longer need to sit there and say, okay, I don't know what to do next. Now you'll be able to self-diagnose a path where you can say, here's where I'm stuck. If I can do X, then I'm going to be able to get to the next stage. So if you were to break day trading and at 0 points, we're going to do a point system here, or a level system. Let's do a level system. At level 0, when you first decide you want to day trade, if level 0 is absolutely brand new beginner, and level 30 would be proficient pro making minimum 7 figures a year, or even just say 6 figures a year. 6 figures a year is enough for most people. Let's just go 6 figures. Let's keep it easy. If level 0 is brand new and level 30 is you are now entering mastery and you have a career and you don't have anything left to worry about in life other than trading every day, this will allow you to level yourself up into each step, because many people are stuck at step 2 or step 3 or step 5 or 6 or whatever. Everybody will be independently stuck at a different level. Okay. So like, this is the ability to say, okay, I'm stuck on level 6. This is what I have to do to go to level 7. I'm stuck on level 9. This is what I have to do to go to level 10. So this is critically important. And what this is we have to have, like I just said, we have to have the ability to self-diagnose our learning process. So there's 4 pillars to learning that I want to discuss. And everybody that I do any work with, I analyze what pillar they're stuck in to understand where their flaws are. And this goes from everything to the way in which we intake information to the physical health that we have for our own bodies. So there are 4 pillars to this, and I'm going to write this in the chat channel here. We're going to go 1, 2. So I'm just going to talk as I type this out. 3, 4. The first pillar of learning is attention. The second pillar of learning is engagement. Oops, that's spelled wrong. Engagement. The third pillar of learning is error feedback. And the fourth pillar of learning is consolidation. Oh, a couple typos here. Let's fix those. Consolidation, error feedback. There we go. So these are the 4 pillars of learning. So everybody who is in a learning phase, you will either be in one of 2 paths, and path 1 is your learning, and you don't need to do any of this, and you simply don't need help because you're accelerating and having great strides every day. If you're doing that, that means you're doing 1 through 4 correctly. Path number 2 is you're stuck somewhere between 1, 2, 3, and 4. And for every time you level up, you may get stuck in a different piece of this. So sometimes you'll be stuck in 1, sometimes you'll be stuck in 3, sometimes you'll be stuck in 4, sometimes you'll be stuck in 2. So you may go to level 11, for example, and you're stuck in engagement, which is the second pillar of learning. But when you get to, and you've cracked that, you've gone past level 11 and you're now in level 12, you may get stuck in error feedback. So you'll always be on this balancing act of where you get stuck in how to learn. So in order to properly learn, at a biological level, this is what happens to us. We have attention, engagement, error feedback, consolidation. To go through these 4 steps is to technically, so if you were to say to a scientist who studies brain paths and neurons and electrons and every way the brain works, if you were to go to them and say, tell me in a scientific way, what does it mean to learn? What does that look like? Is there a chemical that gets released in our body? Is it a process of acceptance mentally? And you could go through everything. It would be boiled down to these 4 things. This is the proven method through MRI scans and through what we know on brain waves, electrons, neurons, and mostly magnetic research. This is the actual process of learning. So we're going to talk about 1, 2, 3, and 4 and what each one means. So number 1 is attention. This is the attention to something. Have you ever read a book? And because I read so many books, this happens often. And I just drop the book because I realize in that moment that if my attention isn't there, there is nothing for me to learn in this book. So I have had high hopes for books, really, really great books. And let me pull up my list of books. This happened to me actually recently with a book. And let me give my example of my book that this happened with. What was it? Let me think for a second here. Thinking Again by Adam Grant. This happened to me for some reason, although it's a great book, and I came back to it later on, to go through it again after I had a better ability to have the attention. I came back to it later on and finished it. I recognized that I had no attention for this book. For some reason, every time I would listen, I would get 5 minutes in. This one I did on audiobook. I would get 5 minutes in, and I do a combination between audiobooks and physical learnings. Like right now on my desk, I'm looking at 2 Brené Brown books, Dare to Lead and Atlas of the Heart. And then on my Audible list or my audiobook list, then I have other books that I read, right? So for some reason, I just couldn't have attention to this book. I instantly dropped it, realizing that if I can't simply have attention to this book, there's no point for me to continue. There's no point to force myself through it. There's no point in muddling through it. There's absolute zero value I can have, because at the end of the day, you have to get through process number 4, which is consolidation. And if you can't do that, this is to not learn. You will literally be wasting your energy, your time, your brain power, like everything, your neurons. When they activate, when your electrons activate to send pulses down your channels, you'll literally be wasting that energy. There's no point to proceed if you don't have the attention. So number 1 is attention. Number 2 is engagement. This is how we engage with something. So this is the engagement to practice the material, to think about it, to reflect. Like if you were to say, what does engagement look like for reading a book? It's to sit there, to pause it, to talk to somebody about what you learn, to engage in it, because it activates a different type of neurons in your brain. There's all sorts of neurons in your brain that activate at different parts, and to engage in it, it's almost like lifting weights for your muscles. It activates different neurons, and they get flexed and they're activated, and a different part of the brain starts to fire. So engagement is important, whether it's reading a book and you're talking about it with somebody, you're reflecting on it, you're doing the exercises the book tells you, anything. And it just isn't for books. It's also for day trading. If we were to take this into day trading, what you would do is you'd go and listen to a lesson with full attention, and then you would go engage on your charts and practice that material on your charts. You would just start going and you would just start saying, okay, Cotton taught me about break levels and origins. Let me just start marking break levels. Your brain, your neurons are now firing, and it's activating a different part of your neurological mind. Different sets of neurons are activating in that moment, which is a part of the process of actually learning something, because you have to go through these in order. You can't do number 2, 3, and 4 without 1, because the way our mind works is you have to have the attention to a subject, and then you have to engage in it. Attention is to intake the information. Engagement is to activate different neurons. It's like working out with your muscles. It's to build your muscles. Well, you're building your brain muscle. So you must have the attention to understand how to do something properly. If you don't have the attention, and this is where I see a lot of people with misinformation on my material, if you don't have the attention, you are going to actively enter the engagement process. And this is a really poisonous cycle. And you'll understand why in a minute, because error feedback is a massive part of our process here. And you'll understand in a moment why this is such a huge, alarming problem and why so many leaks exist with people. So you have the attention to listen to something properly. This is number one. Attention comes in many ways. When I have the attention to listen into a book or read a book, but I have the attention to pocket pieces or things in a silo, I am actually having the attention for incorrect information. Then I'm engaging into incorrect information, and I'm entering error feedback with incorrect information. Error feedback is the literal process to learn. Number 3 is the key step to everything. If this looked like a bell curve, this would be the top of the bell curve. Error feedback is to learn. So if you were to take this to those scientists and say, what is the process of learning? And they'd give you this 1 through 4 list. And you would say, okay, that's great, but which one is the magic? Where's the magic in this 1 to 4 list? It's in number 3. The thing about number 3 is that you can't get there without 1 and 2. And you can get to error feedback from 1 and 2. But if it's error feedback on incorrect information, guess what that causes? That causes flaws in your charting. That causes leaks. That breaks logic flow. That breaks every single component that you'd ever have. And this is where I see questions come to me and say, hey, I thought an origin level could be this. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, how did you come to that assumption when I've never said this once in my life? Like one of the things that has come up recently was, let me think about this for a second. A student told me something and it just caught me so off guard. There was a hold level and they classified a hold level as an origin, but it could never be an origin. Where did they get that information? I found out they were doing this for years, and they're now not a successful trader because they thought that a hold level was origins. And for years they thought this. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how did you ever come to the idea that a hold level turns into an origin? Origins have always, and for years since I first started this 6 years ago, or 7 years ago, or whatever it was now, I have said publicly, like break levels turn into origins once they're hit twice. Like this goes back to the very first lessons I released in 2017, and we're sitting here 2024. And so this goes back to one of the very first founding lessons where I said a break level turns into an origin. And so like for somehow a student has taken a hold level and turned it into an origin. Well, there is your problem. They've created error feedback into the wrong navigation, because if they were paying attention to what I was saying, they would have known that it's a break level that turns into an origin, right? They then thought it was a hold level because they weren't paying attention. And there it is right there, the kink to many people's flaws. They simply didn't have the attention to learn it properly. They then engaged in marking hold levels and then turning them into origins. And then here's where it gets really, really interesting. Error feedback is the process to learn. To make a mistake, you boil every piece of scientific evidence we have. To make a mistake, you boil it down to one point. To make a mistake is the process of learning. If you never make mistakes, you will never learn. If you're always right, you're not learning. To make a mistake is the biological process to grow your brain. So error feedback becomes critical because you need to make errors on the charts so that your brain can make adjustments and then consolidate that information at the end of the day through sleep. And consolidation happens during protein synthesis while we're sleeping of the cells. I won't get into all of how this happens while we sleep, but while we sleep at night, and why there's such an important study by people like Huberman and everybody else in this world who is doing sleep therapy right now and sleep sciences. Sleep is critical to everything in life. And if we go through error feedback, we have done our job of having attention to learn something, engaging in it, to find error feedback. And that's where number 1, 2, 3 connect, because you must have the attention to know what you're doing in order to engage in a process that you've been taught. And when you engage, you are looking to make errors. So without engagement, error feedback can't exist. And without attention, engagement can't exist. So it starts as a 1, 2, 3 channel. That process of error feedback then allows you to make mistakes. Your brain at the end of the day will consolidate that information while you are sleeping, and therefore you have completed the cycle of how to learn. So then it makes complete sense why there's so many people here who simply fail before they even understand how to learn, because they simply didn't have the attention. Something distracted them. A kid yelled in the background. They got a phone call. They didn't pause it fast enough. They've missed a piece there. That attention component starts the process of how we learn, and is so critical, because a slight misstep, it's like the butterfly effect. A droplet of water in the ocean can cause tidal waves on the shore. A little misstep in attention activates engagement on the wrong topic, which then furthers it as a cancer in your mind. So like, think of it like this. 10 days of error feedback is equivalent to 10 months. I would put it at a rate of date a month, 10 months of undoing those bad habits. So if you have entered error feedback into something that is incorrect, you have 10 times or 30 times the amount of work to do to unlearn it, because unfortunately, your brain has taken error feedback on the wrong information, consolidated it. I'll say that again, consolidated it into your neurons, which now have a permanent stamp in your mind. Imagine it's like a stamp with permanent ink. You can't wash that off. You can, but it's not like you just run it underwater. You're sitting there for like an hour scrubbing the thing with like Dawn dish soap, the anti-grease stuff or something, until your skin is red because you've actually just had to scratch your skin cells off. That's what it looks like when we talk about learning information incorrectly. So even the slightest misstep in attention causes such a negative chain reaction down attention into engagement, into error feedback, to consolidation, because once we do that, we are stamping our neurons with information that they hold on to. And so this is like a very bad cycle to get into. So this is critical in understanding how we learn things is whether we will be successful in life or not. This doesn't just go for day trading. This goes for everything you've ever done. And it starts with attention. So you must have the attention to learn something properly in order to engage in the best practices. And once you engage, you are looking to make errors. When I make errors and things, I really sit there and I'm like, wow, these errors are helping train me. This is incredible how that this moment where I've learned something today and now I can make a mistake, I'm supercharging my brain. All I have to do now is enter physical recovery, and that's it, which is consolidation, which is now you're getting into the nutrition of life. Now you're getting into the process of sleeping, and why sleep is so important, because sleep happens during consolidation when our brain is at rest. That's when consolidation happens. And then, of course, the better quality nutrition you have, the better your, for example, antioxidants are an anti-inflammatory for our cells in our brains and our neurons. So if we take antioxidants, our neurons are less inflamed, which means they can transmit electrons better, right? Or electrons transmitted to neurons. Electrons can transmit better because they're not as inflamed. So they can travel down the tunnel of your electron travel channels. They can travel down that easier. So your thoughts that you've consolidated all day because you've taken antioxidants have now had an easier time to travel into the state of turning into thoughts, and thoughts that turn into mitochondria, or the other way around, right? So then an antioxidant, for example, would be a part of consolidation, because that is the physical taking care of our body. But realize consolidation doesn't happen through supplements. It happens during sleep. Supplements just aid our body in its ability to operate better. There's kind of a mixed bag there, but if you were to label this in terms of importance, I would put 80% importance on sleep, 20% importance on everything else, which goes into meditation, breathing. Oh, maybe I would do it like 70-30. I think I would do it 70-30. Sleep as the core. We'll meet in the middle. 75-25. 75% of this is sleep. The other 25% is everything from your breath work, meditation, to supplements and nutrition, exercising. So mind work, the way you take care of your physical body. And that makes up of the other 25%, because your body has to be operating functionally at the highest level. So the consolidation can just maximize its cycle of deliveries of electrons and neurons in mitochondria, right? It can go down those ETC and ATP paths, they're called, and then that is going to allow you to learn. Like, this is the process of learning. So you can see how easy it would be if you were studying my material and you get a text message, something very simple. You miss 15 key seconds. All of a sudden, you've just broken your entire learning path. How can logic flow ever make sense? How can day trading ever be correct and accurate if we're putting misinformation in our brain all the time? Right? It's almost like the news. How could you ever know what's going on if all you ever hear is misinformation? Right? It's the same thing. So this is where it is critical to understand how important attention is. Although attention is a very simple part of this 1, 2, 3, 4 equation, error feedback is really the bread and butter. And then consolidation is so valuable, and engagement. Like, they all kind of play a unique role. So you know, earlier I said, like, error feedback is the magic. Well, this might be the magic, but that doesn't mean it's more important, because actually then attention would be the most important, because that's the ability to even enter the correct cue. You see what I'm saying? So they would have a difference of what's the magic, what's the most important, what's the least important. So this is something that, you know, if I were to create a plan for people, I would say, okay, you're learning material. Number one, don't overwork your brain, because there's diminishing returns on the way we overwork our brain. And what diminishing returns means is that if watching 3 lessons, you can get 80% out of it. So every lesson would be 80%, 80%, 80%. The 4th lesson, you'll get 60% of its value. The 5th lesson, you'll get 50% of its value. It's not a linear scale where you can just do more lessons, and then the more lessons you do, the better you are. It's about efficiency in lessons and creating something that works for yourself, right? So attention and self-diagnosis of attention is important. It's the ability to say, how long can I keep my maximum attention? Now, a little tip for people who are searching for their attention span, and it's scientifically proven. Have you ever heard that cram before a test? Like, people, they go to university and they party for 2 weeks and they have an exam and they're like, okay, well, the exam's due in 2 weeks, go study. And then they party for the first 11 days and or the first 12 days, and they have 2 days left to their exam. And they're like, I'm just going to cram as much as I can in 2 days. And that's it. This is a very unhealthy way to learn. Cramming actually doesn't really do that much for you. You're better off in bouts of like 15-minute study sessions, 30-minute study sessions, an hour study session. You will be more efficient at a rate of 6 or 7 to 1. So 6 times or 7 times more efficient by doing half an hour and an hour of work, and then taking a 15-minute break, 20-minute break, 30-minute break, going for a quick walk, taking some fresh air outside. Your brain, it overheats, and doesn't actually overheat in terms of temperature. That's just a parody to say, like, it has a certain amount of energy it can expunge, because your electrons in your brain are constantly traveling. If too many electrons in your brain travel down your ATP and ETC, well, this is actually the ETC channels. If too many electrons travel on the ETC channel, they end up bottling up. It's like a train station that no train is moving forward, but trains keep smashing into the last train. And your electrons, they end up just dying. And this is called, excuse me, this actually is a cause of necroposis of the cells, or necrosis of the cells, the death of cells. This is when cells die in your mind, is when they keep slamming into each other and your electrons are traveling down the ETC channel, but there's nowhere for them to go. They'll slam into each other, and then that's the process of death of your cells. And it doesn't mean your cells die forever, but this can lead to long-term damage by overstudying. So, like, the best advice I can give for people is understand your attention levels by seeing how engaged. Hang off of every single word of a lesson. Turn off your phone, no distractions. Go somewhere where it's good for you, where you're in a good mental space, and start learning. And do one lesson at a time, and set aside 3 or 4 hours to learn. And in that 3 or 4 hours, it looks like this. You study for 45 minutes, you do one lesson, you walk away. You go outside, you think about it, you talk to yourself about the lesson, because now you're entering engagement. So your attention has been properly used. You've put the race car to the max. It needs a break now. Now you go and you sit with your pit crew or whatever, and you fix things. And this is engagement. So you take a lesson, and then you see where your engagement lies, and then you see where your attention lies, and then you take a break and engage in the topic. Talk to yourself, take a break, go outside, think about what you just learned. Breathe a little bit, come back inside, mark a few levels on a chart. You're entering engagement. Then go back into the cycle of attention again. Or you could enter number 3 at that point, which is error feedback if you want to elongate that engagement session. And then if you wanted to elongate it into an hour and a half session. And then you can do 3 sessions a day where you're taking breaks and your mind is actively being different. This is where, like, if you've ever heard like the dynamic brain, doing multiple tasks at once, this is where it learns so vastly. And there's a balance between attention and how much stress we put on our mind into the changing of gears, into engagement, into making mistakes to learn, and then into sleeping healthily at night to consolidate that information. Again, please realize this isn't an opinion of mine. This is the scientific and biological ways that our electrons and mitochondria transfer and hold on to information in our brain, proven by magnetic MRI magnetic research, right? Proven by MRIs and brain scans. This is the way we learn. There is no flexing in this. There is no gray areas. This is cellular learning. That is it. So it is important to understand attention. You can gauge your own attention levels by saying, how long can I hang on? How many of these types of like little circles can I go in every day? Can I go in 2? That's all my attention span allows for. Don't go into 3. You're not learning. You're actually starting to build bad habits at that point. Don't go into a 3rd cycle. If you can do 4 cycles, great. Also realize overstudying is bad. Don't go and do 8 cycles of this a day. Right? Like that's not good. So that's how you diagnose attention. How long can you sit there and hear every single word? So that's where you self-diagnose. Do I have the attention into this? If not, you need to work on your attention. You need to remove social media distractions. You need to remove life distractions. There's many ways that you can become more focused. I'll just defer to everybody here can just either have discussions on the Discord about focus, or they can simply just look to books, to reading. Everybody will diagnose differently. Some people may live in an apartment and it's loud at a certain point of the day because of construction work. Some people may have children and the children scream and they have this. Some people may live in a frat house. Some people may have a constant phone that they're answering. Some people here might be consultants and they have a job that requires them to be on call. The point being is everybody has to self-diagnose attention to see how much they can hang on to for how long. That's where you self-diagnose attention. The next piece is, are you engaging in what you learned? That's the next piece. Look at your study sessions and say, have I engaged? Have I self-talked about it? Have I thought about things? Have I taken a moment to mark it on the chart? And when you're doing that engagement, you'll enter the process of error feedback. Look to make mistakes so that you can correct them by yourself. So if you've got the attention, but you're simply not practicing, what this looks like is somebody who endlessly goes into the cycle of just studying, never practicing. You're not learning. You're not learning at that point. Stop what you're doing. You're just not learning. There's no point to continue. So if you've got the attention to do it, you have to actively enter engagement, and that engagement will give you error feedback, because through engagement, you'll make mistakes. And when you find yourself making mistakes, that's where you're learning. That's the adjustment in your mind that will consolidate at the end of the day to correct itself and give you the proper information every single time. So if you are engaging, engage and look to make mistakes. If you can't find that you're making mistakes, you either have one of 2 things. You weren't listening to the information properly. You have a bias / this is all part of the same topic. You haven't listened to the information properly. You're engaging incorrectly, or you're engaging in the wrong intentions. You have a bias to what your thoughts were prior to going into attention engagement. So if this is closed-mindedness, you have a bias and realize it. Or somebody else has told you something, unfortunately, and this is where it's so dangerous to have communication with people who, like, it's not dangerous, it's always good, but there's a balance here. Like, what I often see is error feedback between 2 students who don't know what they're doing. So one student tells another one what the problem is. They both are engaging. So realize this is another problem. And now you can start to see where I look at people and I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be a problem. They've had the attention, they've engaged with each other, they've entered error feedback on the wrong information because they're helping each other because they're brand new. So error feedback and engagement is critical. So this is like the good and bads about being in a community when you're learning at a scientific level. This actually decreases our learning. Unless it's the correct information, which is proven to be very infrequently the case. So then you enter error feedback with the wrong information, and then you consolidate incorrect information. Congratulations, you just spilled paint on a carpet. You basically need to replace that. Basically rip that carpet out. It's going to take you a while. You're going to have to probably tear out the carpet. The subfloor, the underpad, whatever, that might be fine. Like the underlayment that goes under the carpet, that may be fine. But like, it's going to take you a while to go cut that carpet out. Now you got to go to the store. Now you got to spend money. Now you got to pick out new carpet. Hope it matches. They don't have that same carpet pattern in stock. Well, I guess you're ripping out all the carpet. Sick. Now I got this whole goddamn job to do because I accidentally spilled a bucket of paint because I was being stupid about it because I wasn't paying attention. And now I got to hire someone to put this carpet in because I don't have the time to do this. And if I'm going to do it myself, then okay, well, I might as well take part-time work then because I can't work full-time anymore. You see the cycle that it starts to get into, the problem, right? This is detrimental. And this is the problem with like the good and bad about a community. It's like you gotta have the right information, which makes mentorship and things like that I do so viable because it's like you're learning the truest core values without mistake, right? Like that's the beauty in something like that. And so error feedback is really interesting. And then at the end of the day, you've done all of this. So we've talked about 1, 2, and 3 and the vast implications and how we get there and what it looks like and the engagement and the finding of errors. And you have to find errors when you're doing it so you can do that. Then you get to consolidation. So you've done your job 1 to 3. Well, what if you're not getting enough sleep? You're not learning. You might as well not even bother. At that point, scratch it all off the list. Stop day trading, stop learning, stop day trading, focus on your sleep. If you can't consolidate information, you are not learning. And if you think you can push through anyways because you're different than the rest of us, I'm telling you, you're not. Everybody will tell, every scientist, every podcaster that you respect, from Joe Rogan to Huberman, will tell you you're not the exception. Like nobody is. This is the way our cells work. If you think you're the exception and that you can only sleep like 4 or 5 hours a day and or 2 hours or 6 hours, like good luck. Nobody can help you at that point. So then you've done all this 1 through 3 and you're not consolidating the information because you don't have healthy sleep with a proper nutrition. What's the point? What's the point? Stop what you're doing. Go get a job as in the service field or something where you don't have to learn to succeed. Because in our field, let me tell you something, in day trading, you must learn to succeed. You must learn properly in order to be a successful day trader. Go do something in your life where that's not the precedence. In day trading, the precedence is learning. If you cannot get sleep, you're spinning your wheels. Guess what? Congratulations. You just wasted your time. You just built bad habits. You just built biases as to why day trading sucks. And all these people that you hear saying day trading is just gambling, it's this. Imagine learning now. Imagine with all of that we just talked about. Now I want you to think about some of these quick tools that the industry teaches. Fibonacci, golden ratios, MACD, any of these things. Imagine the process of attention, engagement, error feedback using something like Elliott wave. And then imagine the amount of dialogue that happens around that and the misinformation, even if it did work, the over attention to it and the popularization of the theory makes it fail as a whole already. And this is very common across many industries. This is seen in the supplement industry with all the misinformation. This is seen in news and media. This is seen everywhere. So the more something becomes popular, the harder it is to learn, which is so cool about like my content because it's such a niche thing that it kind of lives in a balance between two worlds, big enough to get eyes, but not too big that too much misinformation gets spread around. So now again, take 1 through 4, scientifically, cellular, biologically. What does that look like now when you start talking about things like Elliott wave or this or that or smart money concepts? I don't even have to say anything. I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this now is just like, this makes so much sense. Oh my God, like imagine. But that's the point. Imagine. So like if you can't go through 1 through 4 properly, don't get into a career where the driver is how to learn. Get into a career where you are following orders. The difference between a business owner and a high-level worker, maybe the difference between an accountant or a lawyer and a business owner. We have lots of successful careers in this world where we don't need to be the director of learning knowledge and go through this. This is just good life experience and knowledge, the 1 through 4. However, again, if you're expecting to be a day trader and missing any of these points, guess what? You're going to have a pretty rocky path. So that is where I will leave this conversation on attention, engagement, error feedback, consolidation, and just read chat, get into a few quick questions, and end this. So if I lose 2 hours of sleep a night, how much does that affect me? It depends how often it happens, speak, and it depends what you mean by affect. This is everything from necrosis of cells, which is cell death, and the rebuilding and having to rebuild, which can lead into cancer and all sorts of things. It depends how often this is happening. If it's once in a while, it's, you know, it's not great, but it happens. Sleep is so vastly important for everything from longevity of life to the aging of our skin, to the cells in our brain, to mitochondria, to electrons, to the channels that the ETC and the ATP, the which are the channels in which things transfer. It's everything. Sleep is everything. If you lose sleep, you're damaging yourself in more ways than you would ever realize. And some of these damages are permanent. So if you're somebody who has not gotten sleep for a long time, realize you've done a lot of damage on your body. Some of it is reversible. Like there's some, you know, different supplements out there. I won't get into them. I'm not here to recommend supplements, but a couple I would look into are COQ10 and CQQ. CQQ, you're thinking about taking cocoa powder, probably depending on your weight, 20 milligrams a day. That would be CQQ, and COQ10 is another one. So I would just simply you think about like researching maybe CQQ and COQ10 for that. I sleep 2 hours a night. Yikes. Yeah, like you're cooked. Eat my biscuits. You need to prioritize sleep before anything, and just stop everything you're doing. Prioritize sleep so that your mind can actually learn. Because at this point, you're fried. You're fried. I would imagine this varies from person to person, but the stress of worrying about that would also be a negative. A certain amount of stress, I feel, is suppressing learning. I feel it's probably good to do the engagement part in cycles, and I feel you naturally know when you have to learn something. At least this is something that works for me on knowing if I have learned something. Yeah, and I would say that like stress obviously is not good. It's a different discussion on what stress does to your brain and things like that, and it creates inflammation, right? And then it's a battle between antioxidants to reduce inflammation and create inflammation. Like stress raises your body temperature, which creates inflammation around the cells, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's a whole different conversation, but this doesn't, I wouldn't say it varies from person to person. I think what you meant about varies from person to person is how much it affects me when Speak said, how much does this affect me? I think that's what you were referring to. And if it is or not, it affects us all profoundly. So I would just say if to put that into a simple phrase to communicate, it affects you profoundly. So that effect is person to person dependent, but everybody under that group is profoundly. It's just how big is profound is person to person. Jeff Blazos says, place 1 brick a day and look back and you'll have built a beautiful wall. It's a process, not a race. Quality over quantity. 100%. Personally, Zen meditation has been hugely helpful. I can't overstate how much it's been helpful for me to retain and focus and attention. Yeah. So this, I would agree with this. And I would just say meditation. And so when we say personally Zen meditation, realize this is breathing control and breathing exercise. So whether they teach this in athletic therapy, whether it's through sports and breathing through sports, whether it's through Zen meditation, the common shared property that is so good for our mitochondria and so good for our brain cells, electrons, is mindful breathing. So take everything from Zen meditation to Western or Eastern meditation into athletic breathing, into the way, like, for example, a golfer goes through breathing exercises. I believe what happens is they exhale on the way up. On their backswing, they exhale, and on their downswing, they inhale. I think it's reversed. I'm not sure 100%. And then tennis is the same thing. There's a certain breathing pattern. Like maybe it's tennis, I think. Actually, I think it's the opposite for golf, and I think that's tennis, as to where they inhale on the burst of energy. So when they hit the ball, they inhale, and then when they're not hitting the ball, they exhale, and they have a different breathing pattern when they're not hitting the ball. So like, for example, in sports and athletic training, and I don't know the exact breathing pattern, but it would be like a 4-2-4 or a 4-4-4 or a 12-6-6-12. Different breathing patterns, which is when you say like 4-2-4, it's like 4 seconds of inhaling, 2 seconds of pausing, 4 seconds of exhaling, 2 seconds of pausing. And so you have to research your own. And so Zen meditation would just go under the subject. All of these things would go under the subject of mindful breathing, because the point of Zen meditation and all of these things is when we do what's called mindful breathing, it activates our cells differently. So that's the same commonality that Zen meditation would share with East or Western meditation, would share with yoga breathing, which would share with athletic training, the way that a boxer has to breathe. They all fall under the same cellular activation of different cells through mindful breathing. So this is what I would say. Like you're saying Zen meditation, absolutely nailed it. Moonlight, great thing. And for people who want to do Zen meditation, like reach out to Moonlight, ask him his preference, or talk about it in open chat, or don't do Zen meditation at all. Just practice a form of mindful breathing, because that converts into the activation of cells that don't typically activate, which flexes them, which makes them grow, which makes them stronger, right? So mindful breathing is that's a huge one there. I use taking notes as my measurement of attention. That would be engagement. Attention is the process to listen and to have accuracy. So taking notes would be engagement. Is 6.5 hours of sleep enough? It's close, but they say 7 to 9 hours depending on your age. Stream schedule, I'll be posting it later on. Don't know if there's a static number on, but 8 hours is recommended. It's 7 to 9 depending on your age. And then women need 2 more hours of sleep than men do, because their cycle is a bit different than ours. So if you're a man, I would say 7 is good. If you're a woman, 9. And that can also be extended to 9 to 11. And that's an important life lesson too. The fact that women need 2 more hours of sleep means they have a shorter day than us, which means their job becomes so much tougher. So there has to be a respect there for women and their sleep cycles, because biologically, they actually need 2 more hours of sleep than men do. They have a very different biological cycle than we do, and they have a very different strain on their body every single month. And it's not, we're not talking about for 1 week they need that. We're talking about for 365 days of the year, they need more sleep. So do a good human favor for your loved ones, your significant others, your mothers, your grandmothers, let them sleep in. Because they actually, if you've gotten 8 hours of sleep, they're not getting 8 hours of sleep until they've gotten 10. So if you both get 8 hours of sleep, realize they've got 6 hours of sleep. So just a good life lesson for everybody. LSDs, yeah, psychedelics have been proven to reconnect neurons in the brain. They're not a one-stop fix for everything, but they definitely help. So you're saying magic mushrooms are something to research. Yep, I would say LSDs in general. Everybody has to do their own research on them, and there's health benefits to them. Just don't abuse anything, and that's it. Okay, thanks. Some people say 6, some 7, some 8. Scientifically, it's 7 through 9, 7 to 9. Huberman, also awesome for this kind of stuff. Definitely a nice plug. Yeah, so many topics, certainly some on sleep. Yeah, I've listened to pretty much all of Huberman's stuff. Well, I listened to it years and years ago, but yeah, he definitely has some amazing science research. And then there's another guy who goes on there. I believe he has orange hair, and if memory serves me correctly, and he's really good too. He goes on his podcast. This is my first interaction with your content. My friend literally just recommended you, and this one dialogue made me think a lot. Wow. Oh, that's great. Eat my biscuits. That's super cool. I'm so happy that you could get such a great introduction to my material and content, because I really focus on the things that most day traders aren't, because I come from an educated standpoint, not just an opinion-based standpoint. That's awesome. I'm thankful that you're here. This is why my wife sleeps so much longer. Always learning something. Absolutely. And it's critical to even to have a discussion with your partner about this. They may not know this. A lot of people don't have a discussion with your partners about this and say like, hey, did you know you need 2 more hours of sleep because you're a different gender than I am? That's amazing. The incredible conversation to have. Talk about being a supportive person. That's incredible. You're now being a good human being. I would employ everybody to do this, because if we had more better human beings in the world, we'd all like, there wouldn't be birth rate crises and etc. Not that sleep is the link to birth rate crises, but it's just a mindfulness thing, right? Like self-awareness and mindfulness are both very important things in life. Does pre-workout affect learning and day trading? Pre-workout is actually very bad for you. It's yeah, I would definitely look like energy drinks. God, stay away from those things. I used to take energy drinks because I was just so burned out, but after learning about them, I'm just like, I'll never put that poison in my body again. Pre-workouts, I would assume, fall under the same category. There's a lot of research that doesn't work in the favor of pre-workouts, and very little research that works in favor of them, right? Matt Walker, that might be who I'm talking about. I'm not sure. Been on both Joe Rogan and Huberman. I think I've seen him on Joe Rogan as well. We're probably talking about the same person. Nicholas, dude, this community is sick. I don't think we'd be talking about psychedelics today. I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff and its effect on the brain. So psychedelics do have, like, they talk about ayahuasca, they talk about this. You can see there's lots of discussion on this on the internet. You go to Joe Rogan for that. There's real evidence that psychedelics reconnect dead neuron pathways. As psychedelics, a very interesting thing to do self-exploration outside of this mention of because this is more focused on how we learn. But I will just say that there's, if you research it, research says that there is incredible impacts of using psychedelics. Lion's mane specific kind. Yeah, lion's mane is great, but it's, you know, there's the real core to the brain, like the real core to the brain is vitamin B is a massive part of the brain. So when you talk about at the level of mitochondria, what do they call it in Star Wars? It's the Force, but in Star Wars it's called something else. Like myo something. It's basically a play on words for mitochondria. Somebody can chime in, or I can Star Wars mitochondria. I'm just gonna put that. I'm sure it'll come up. So back when George Lucas created Star Wars back in the 70s, he sat with, I believe it was a psychologist, midichlorian. That's what it is. Yeah, midichlorians. There we go. I as soon as you both said it, I saw it on my thing because I'm Googling at the same time here. Midichlorians. This is the ability of using the Force, right? Like this is the ability to pick things up with your hand 20 feet away and throw a boulder across, or use the Force to influence. This was a play on mitochondria. So mitochondria and midichlorian are actually in a way the same thing. And for the fact that in the Star Wars universe, they were basically understanding that the mitochondria were higher in certain people, right? So it's very interesting because you think about that and the way at the core level and all the science that's done, there are a few things that are critical. Lion's mane is not one of them. A lion's mane is a supplement that our body doesn't produce and gives you a deficiency of something. And I don't actually think the lion's mane is a deficiency. So I rather think that lion's mane is a very superficial booster, because lion's mane, like, so supplements are created in labs to supplement things that our body needs to survive that we cannot produce on our own. So like lion's mane is not something our body needs to survive or thrive. Rather, it's kind of just like caffeine in a way. It's like a slight little hit boost, but it doesn't really tackle any fundamental or foundational problems. Like if your electrons and mitochondria, if you've got a bunch of dead mitochondria because you've gone through necrosis, cell necrosis, and you've got a bunch of dead mitochondria in your body, lion's mane isn't going to do anything. It's like you're putting caffeine in half of a human at that point, right? Like it would be the same equivalent. Or another one would be like CoQ10, right? Like that's something our body needs, but it's very hard for us to find. Our body can't produce enough of it. So everybody in the world has like a CoQ10 deficiency, or most people do. And then there's medicines that block the CoQ10 receptors. Like for example, diabetic medicine, heart medicine, they block your CoQ10 receptors. But CoQ10 with your electrons and your brain is a critical part of taking electrons and converting them into thoughts. So like something like lion's mane isn't actually going to give you the high efficiency of your brain. When you're taking lion's mane, whatever your brain efficiency is at, like say if my brain efficiency was at 100% because I had like my mitochondria is healthy, I have all the vitamins, my ETC, which is the channel where your electrons go down, and my ATPs, those are all functioning 100%. I'm like the ideal human being, 100% on paper. Then lion's mane will give me a slight boost to that full 100% pool. If you're operating at a 30% rate because you get no sleep, you have a terrible exercise routine, you have a very low value in nutrition, and you just live a very unhealthy lifestyle, then you're operating at like 30%. It's like a boost to 30%. So like, what is it really doing? Like your core, and I'm not here to recommend supplements other than to tell people to go and do their own research on this stuff. Your core variables, or your core things that you want to look at, are a ton of different vitamin Bs, like vitamin B1, vitamin B2, vitamin B4, I believe, no, B6, B1, 6, 3, and 12, and 5. All the different Bs. Basically, people take a vitamin B. There are multiple different vitamin Bs that do different things. Like there's a mitochondrial component to them. There's a requirement to have elements in the ETC cycle, and that's the transfer. So there's like the electrons themselves that need a certain type of vitamin B. Then there's the transfer of those electrons, which is the ETC, which is the electron transmission channel. And there's a different vitamin B for that. And then there's the synthesis of L-carnitine, which is actually not vitamin B. And then there's the dehydrogenase process, which is vitamin B whatever, but they're all different vitamin Bs. So if somebody goes and takes like a B12, it's like, dude, no, you literally did nothing. Go and take like a massive B complex. One of the best things you can do for your brain is take like a very well-balanced B complex that comes from a lab that does high quality stuff. So like if you're talking about supplements, one of the best things you can do for your body is go buy like an expensive B12, a B complex, sorry, not B12. Go buy an expensive B complex that has a well balance at a high level of all the like B1, B2, B3, 4, 5, 6. And then B12 is for something different. And then, vitamin C is important for the synthesis of L-carotene, and there's different things, your ETC chains and stuff like that. And this is all like CoQ10 and the cycle of mitochondrias and electrons in your brain. And then there's PQQ, which is also something else. PQQ is another super force. So PQQ and CoQ10. Yeah, that's it. Exactly it, Reaper. Those are the two. It's PQQ, not PPQ. And the best way to get that is through cocoa powder. That's an easy one. You just do your calculation to make sure you get, like, based on your weight, you get 20 milligrams of PQQ daily, 20 milligrams daily of PQQ if you're about 150 pounds, I believe it is. And if you're like, so for every, like the equation is, if you look up in medical journals or scientific research, every 70 kilograms is 20 PQQ. And so you just do your own equation. Like, I'm 210 pounds, so I need about 26 milligrams of PQQ a day. So 26 milligrams of 26 grams of cocoa powder per day is then what I need. So I just put it in my smoothie, right? But like, if you're talking about lion's mane, like, go focus on PQQ, CoQ10, and vitamin B complex. And then also, like, magnesium is important. I can share my list, which is iron, sulfur, magnesium, magnesium, cysteine. Oh, alpha lipoic acid is huge. ALA acid, that's huge. That's really important for mitochondria. Iron, copper, vitamin B. Most of these things you get in your multi, but the emphasis should be on a really good B complex. Lipoic acid is really good as well. Magnesium is really good for this. Vitamin C, of course. A really good vitamin B. And then I would say that would be your CoQ10. Oh, sorry, CoQ10. CoQ10. And then PQQ would be your cocoa, right? So that's where I would focus my very first core level supplementation, because those are things, and this is key, those are things the body desperately needs, and we all have low levels of, or typically most of us, I would say over 90% of the population has very low levels of these things, unless you're mindfully taking. The other 10% are mindfully taking. These are things at a scientific and genetic level that we need in our body, but our body does not produce enough of. And this is why supplementations exist. And this is how you use supplements properly. Does your body need it? And does it produce enough of it? Right? And then you can get into collagen and different things like that, which also helps, but that's not, collagen I'd put as a secondary to these things that I've mentioned, because this is real brain medicine that's proven by science, right? So, like, that's just where I would go with that, which is also a part of consolidation. So it's important we talk about this, because this is a part of consolidation, right? And then you can start thinking about things like lion's mane and anything else, but realize it's what our body needs that can't naturally produce is where we need to put supplements. It's why they exist. At a scientific level, that's why they were first created and why they still get created today. How to Change Your Mind on Netflix documentaries about psychedelics, very informative. I've been recommended that series a lot, or that documentary. It's not a docu-series, documentary a lot, but I haven't actually watched it. Your therapy, does your dopamine levels affect day trading learning? Yeah, dopamine levels have an effect on the body for sure. Recently made a huge switch on my diet, cut out all supplements. Now I do a little piece of raw liver every day. So that's going to help you with things like collagen, like raw meats. That definitely covers all my vitamins. This won't cover things like PQQ, CoQ10. Might help you with some of the other things like the vitamin Bs and magnesiums and things like that. But PQQ and CoQ10, I would still definitely recommend taking a thought about. Benefits from lion's mane, which makes sense. Lion's mane, I feel, is like a bit like magic mushrooms in that it boosts neuron dendrite growth, but not as effective. Yeah, but lion's mane is probably activating POQ10. Like we have receptors in the brain. We have PQ1, we have PQ2, PQ3, PQ4. Like there's different receptors we have. So like POQ10 is, or sorry, COQ. God, I keep saying P. My words are screwing with me today. CQ1, CQ2, CQ3, CQ4, COQ10. Like these are different things that our brain has already a blueprint of. So I don't know, maybe lion's mane is doing something there. Sure, you could just Google it and see exactly what it's doing. Definitely looking this up. Diet has a huge impact on learning. Yep, you take COQ10 every day. Very smart. Eat my biscuits. Yeah, it's magic. COQ10 is a magical thing to take, and so is cocoa powder because that's your PQQ. Like those two in combination are that's the supplement combo of superheroes. Isn't it crazy that in high school doctors will teach you proper nutrition? Yep, they have different focuses in life, like making money. Not, you equip people with the ability to be healthy, and that's not a good business model. Health in general is not a good business model for doctors and medicine. If people are healthy, business stops rolling in. Omegas will cover ALA requirements, and omegas are amazing for cognition. Yeah, for sure. I would also take lipoic acid as well, but so you're talking about DHAs and EPAs. ALAs, you typically won't have a high enough concentration on omegas. Like not even a krill oil, I don't think, would have enough ALA. Like I separately take a lipoic acid as well as taking omegas, but there's definitely like your EPAs, your DHAs are massive. Like those are huge, and I just kind of assume that everybody takes fish oils, but those are another one. Like fish oil, high quality fish oil is another one that I would put right up there in a tier 1 because that is like DHAs and EPAs are critical, as critical as maybe not as critical as COQ10 and PQQ, but very, very close. They would be third place. If those two were first and second place, I feel like this would be third place, right? So like very important. Thanks, Cotton. Legally become a doctor. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you everybody so much for being here. That'll be it for this on how to learn. I hope this really helped everybody in the process of understanding, where we learn and why we learn. And if people want to know more about this, if this really interests people, I'm going to give a good book recommendation. And it's called Mitochondria and the Future of Medicine. If you really want to know more about this and you're starting to get into like cell hacking, so some people call it like it's cell hacking. It's not, but if you are going to be sitting here saying like, how do I make my brain stronger? This is it. It's the understanding of the mitochondria and the electrons. This is at the level that happens before anything. The only thing that happens, and I want to put this into perspective for people, the only thing that happens before mitochondria is ancient bacteria, singular cell ancient bacteria. So this is so far pulled back into the process of how to control how strong your brain is and how smart you are. The only thing that happened before mitochondria in science, and this is before even Earth was formed, was ancient single cell DNA that existed in meteorites that ended up to the creation of the planet Earth. So ancient bacteria evolved through a one and infinite process. You could go through 1 trillion years of a planet being born, and just through the trillionth, like not even measurable, a moment of pure magic happens where for some reason it broke every statistical anomaly that could say this could never exist, where bacteria as a single cell, ancient bacteria, could transform into mitochondria. That is the birth of life as we know it. So the only thing, so understand this about mitochondria, what we're talking about today, when we're talking about like PQQ10, COQ10, oh, sorry, not PQQ10, just PQQ, COQ10. Understand this is now electrons and mitochondria. The very first process of what happens. Fasting is great. It's not. It's actually extremely unhealthy and they're finding very bad information about, especially intermittent fasting. Stay far away from that stuff. Realize mitochondria is the core level of everything that we know. So that is the very first layer of anything you can even possibly process down the thought of where your brain exists. And the only thing that exists before that is ancient bacteria, that singular cell. That was the creation of our planet and life. And that for some miracle of an event, you could run 1,000 planets 1,000,000,000,000 times and they will not spark the moment where single cell bacteria that was ancient could actually turn into mitochondria. We are human beings because of this, which also gets into the theory that if there's other planets with life out there, they'd be exactly identical to us, because it's the ancient single cell bacteria that turned into mitochondria that made human beings. Human beings are human beings, the way we are, the height, the fact that we have fingers, everything about life, everything about anything you've ever known is all mitochondria. So this is the most stripped back, reduced layer. And this is what we're talking about. We're equipping ourselves with the ability to have this at the highest level. The book name, just one more time, is Mitochondria and the Future of Medicine by Lee No. It's a blue cover with light blue and purple writing on it. Thanks, Cotton. Love your work. Great session. Next, Gem, as always, excited for all the changes. Lots of information. Thanks. Yes, it will be on YouTube. The powerhouse of the cell. Yep, exactly. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here. Feel free to continue chatting in here, and we'll see you in the Discord.